there. And I think if I click this go live button right here, I think it means we're going to go live. I'm not entirely sure, but let's find out what's going on out
Let's
there,
give it a
ladies and
shot.
gentlemen. This is Jeremy from the Weekly Narrative, the alt-centrist podcast, and my co-host Delaney back again
Hi.
for another weekly podcast. How's it going? How's it been?
It's been good.
Hmm.
Fires up here are starting to clear up a little bit. It's not so smoky outside. Gavin Newsom won the recall, so he's going to be our governor for another year. It's great stuff.
Yeah, I was hoping the Dixie Fire was going to hit the record, but it looks like it didn't quite make it. Oh well. Maybe next one on the next try. Bigger, better fires.
Yeah.
Build back better. That kind of thing. What's up? We
Yeah,
got
build
Paul,
back better.
Paul in the chat, Osis in chat, Dari in chat, Zen, and Holly. What's up, guys? Welcome. We got a few in the stereo as well. Piling in. Grab a drink. Grab a seat. Let's get comfortable. Today we got a bunch of good topics on deck. First of all, we're gonna be talking about some. We love talking about schools and teachers and how mentally ill teachers are these days. We got a couple good examples of those schools and teachers that are mentally ill breaking down over the COVID stuff, and really just further examples of how the COVID stuff is kind of breaking everybody down mentally. We're gonna be going to. Oh, this one's so good. This is my favorite of all time. I think intersectionality is actually. I think I'm starting to like intersectionality, because intersectionality can be fun in cases when racism intersects with COVID stuff, which is what we have happening now in New York City. We had some black Texas women go get kicked out of a New York City restaurant. They were all three women were black, and well, you know what happens anytime black women are treated disproportionately? It's racism, right? So now the conversation has shifted to people are starting to realize these passwords are actually racist. Some BLM leaders are catching
Mm-hmm.
on. They're calling out for that. We're going to be going over that, talking about how hilarious the backfiring is on the vaccine passports. And we're going to be taking a little visit over to COVID land for some, I don't know if you would call it bombshell. I'm hesitant to use the word, but it's a new, an actual Chinese defector who came out and claims that the COVID was spread intentionally in October of 2019 at the military games in Wuhan. So we'll take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Could be good. And we also have some more data released regarding some research that was done on the Wuhan in 2018 and what they wanted to do way back then. So the plot thickens there, and of course the new study regarding vitamin D that you guys will want to hear if you care about staying healthy.
Jeremy, just so you know, on the YouTube side, we got chat going over your side of the screen. I don't
Oh
know
yes,
if that's
yeah.
okay. Just wanted.
I'm gonna try to get chat on the main screen now for the historical
Okay.
record here. I'm just trying to figure out where to put it. I don't know where to put it. I'll put it right over your. No, it doesn't work over your face. I'll
Put it in the middle so that way they can actually read it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it won't work. I'll just you know
Yeah,
what?
just put it over my face. It's fine. Nobody wants to see my face anyways.
All right, folks, let's get this thing started. Let's go. No, no, no. We'll find out. Yeah. So I figured we start out the show with a little mention of what happened yesterday. So we're on YouTube. For those of you who may or may not have noticed, we streamed live on Odyssey, and it went really well, actually, surprisingly. This alt tech stuff, man, it's gonna take off eventually. There's a lot of creators already over on Odyssey, the good ones anyway, all the good ones that get banned off of YouTube and whatnot. So that went well. I think we're gonna transition slowly over to that, and because we got a strike on YouTube. Okay, so we got a strike for talking about the CDC and their opinion. The CDC's opinion on the vaccine is what we got a strike for, for reciting the CDC's opinion on the vaccine. And we got a strike for saying that for saying that the vaccine wasn't effective or something like that. So that is where we were. Now the strike system is a little strange because although it's my second strike, it's only my first strike because the other strike already expired. The strikes only last a certain amount of time, so we still only have one strike for those keeping count. But we're gonna slowly transition away into Odyssey anyway. So that's an update on where we were last week for those of you guys who missed us on YouTube last week. Now, if you were on the Telegram channel, you would have gotten an update. If you were on my Twitter, you would have gotten an update as well. So if you're not following those, that's where you get the updates, folks. Stay in the know.
And I mean, it was kind of nice being on Odyssey because when we're on YouTube, we kind of have to self-censor a little bit and not mention certain words and certain things, or else the overlords will get us. And so it was nice to be able to say the evil I word and the evil H word that YouTube refuses to even acknowledge. So, yay, maybe we'll make the big switch over to Odyssey because that was nice.
Yes, indeed. And back onto the government-approved topics with all the correct language that we'll be using today. Of course, I've got my dictionary out here of stuff that I can and cannot say. So let's get into the stuff we got to talk about this week. Mentally ill teachers. This was great. I saw this on Twitter, and I think this is representative of actually quite a bit of teachers in America right now. And let me go ahead and share my screen here. This is from Medium. And a teacher wrote about how she's going to quit her job and she says so are thousands of others because of the COVID stuff that's happening and all the MAGA students, MAGA meaning conservatives, right? Conservative students that she has to deal with. Let's take a look at some of the stuff that she wrote in this article on her Medium page. She says the classroom is not a safe space anymore. The MAGA students are getting worse. They've always complained about safe spaces. The classroom is supposed to be one. First of all, no, it's really not.
No, I was going to say that I've never felt like a classroom is supposed to be a safe space. What the hell? Okay.
Her vision of what
Continue.
a classroom is supposed to be is kind of messed up. I think she makes that clear off the bat. She says they don't like that. They've turned classrooms into one of the most dangerous places in the world.
What?
Imagine a bunch of people with
Okay.
different views and experiences and randomly thrown together in a room and asked to talk to each other while learning how to debate topics like abortion and global warming. Now let some of these students have guns and add a deadly virus. The students have guns and a deadly virus. Now, a teacher would be intelligent enough to know the statistics on how many people the virus is killing, right? So they would know that it only kills 98%, of like even people over 65. Would you consider that a deadly virus? Would you also call the flu a deadly virus by those, criteria? Personally, I wouldn't use the term deadly virus, but I guess teachers know better. She continues to say, I've got a handful of straight-up MAGA assholes in my classes this year. They're anti-masking, anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists. That's right. The students are full-on conspiracy theorists.
Wow. I mean, the fact that she has the nerve to call her students assholes is quite hilarious to me.
Yeah, and I don't know how they get guns in the classroom either. Holly seems to have some confusion on that as well in the YouTube chat there. She says they have
how does
guns.
she know that they have guns?
I think she's just...
No, they don't have guns. Their parents have guns. What the hell?
Yeah, right. Well, she probably also does not know the laws around gun ownership, so I wouldn't blame her for thinking that they have guns as well. So she continues, it's just, how bad are they? They're pretty terrible. They think kicking Trump off of Twitter wasn't fair. They think the Texas abortion ban was a huge victory. They think liberals are panicking about the coronavirus. They think they're not executing enough criminals and that slavery never happened. First of all, I don't think any of them actually think that. But, she's obviously kind of projecting what she believes to be the worst stereotypical MAGA kid raised by MAGA parents. What does she think that they would be? And then she's kind of projecting that on these kids. They hate my school's mask mandate. A few years ago, there was always one student you couldn't have a reasonable debate with. Now there's too many. Now, when I read that, I'm like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what I want to see. We need students asking questions and pushing back. Oh, Osis says penises are guns. She's probably, that's why she thinks they have guns. That explains it. Okay, yeah. Thanks, Osis, for clearing that one up. That makes sense. I think that's what they teach the teachers in college these days. The phallic objects are also guns that should be banned by the government.
Oh, okay.
So now she says they're dangerous. These kids. Remember, guys, we're talking about kids in a classroom, okay? There's like, science posters on the wall. Kids are sitting there with a hat on and a cell phone, and he's bored out of his mind. He's looking around. He wants something to do, and he's dangerous, according to this teacher. She says, I've never felt threatened by students before, not on this level. Now they can actually hurt me just by breathing. Now, is this satire? This has got to be satire, right?
I wish it was satire because this is funny. Like I wish that this person, this woman, because this is clearly a woman, if this is how if she's thinking that these kids are dangerous because they all have the virus. This has to be, but I know it's not because I know personally people that think like this.
I'm looking at her Twitter page, and it seems legit. Let's do a physiognomy check here, shall we? Let's take a look at her profile picture. Get a physiognomy check on that. I don't know. I mean, that could be transgender, maybe. Let's take a look at another picture. I'm not trying to be mean here, but you know what I'm saying? This is, it doesn't sit right on the eyes to me. Something's going on there. I don't know.
She looks like a goth Bratz doll.
Nicely put. Okay. So, okay, this does appear to be legit. Shockingly, or not shockingly. They hurt me just by breathing. All they have to do is give me a breakthrough infection that I passed to my 3-year-old daughter.
Oh, God, she has a daughter?
Oh, of course, yeah. I'm sure she's probably a single mom, too, right? Nobody listens to us. It's hard enough to get our own students to listen. Imagine talking to our bosses. We have lots of bosses, department heads, principals, deans, superintendents, blah, blah, blah. We also have people who think they're our bosses, aka parents, who show up at school board meetings to tell us what your real job is. They rant about mask mandates and critical race theory, even though they have no idea what that is. None of them teach, and none of them have any idea what we do. So this is who's teaching your kids. She thinks that the kids are walking in with guns, a deadly virus, like they breathe on you, then you're dead. That's it, just one breath. And they're terrible. And I think the funniest part for me was the Twitter one, Trump one. She says they think kicking Trump off Twitter wasn't fair. What? As if she's thinking way past the sale already, as if that was a fair thing. But I don't know how you could call that fair in any sense of the word. Overall, just an indication on top of the other indications that we give you every single week that if you keep your kids in public schools, you are. I don't know. I got some. If you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Right? Let's just go with that.
Right. Well, and the fact that she brings the parents in and says that the parents think that they're her boss, it's like they kind of are. They're the ones that are paying for they're paying for the kids to go to this school, and when you are projecting your ideology onto the kids and thinking that these kids are all dangerous, like a responsible parent would step up and say, "You are crazy. You are batshit, lady." Yeah. You think that my kid is dangerous when you're the one who doesn't want to have students have a civil debate and learn how to have conversations with each other about tough topics. Like that's part of like going to school and learning from your teacher and having a environment where it's okay to talk about these things and not get pissed off and think that the other person's evil. Like it's this woman is nuts. Like I'm surprised that anybody would have a child with this person, not gonna lie.
Well, guys do have low standards these days. That does not shock me at all. That one doesn't particularly shock me. Holly in the YouTube chat says, maybe she'd be scared of Jeremy's guns. The gym pics. Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. I share motivational gym pics of myself in the Telegram. If you guys want to help get your chat immunity on with me, okay, you will get some motivation from me in there. She would definitely be afraid of my guns for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Could someone talk the teacher into jumping out the window? That's not very nice, Dari. That's not very nice, Dari. Come on. Blessed equals privilege says, came for the Kung Flu bombshell. What's new in the open? Oh, we got a whistleblower from China saying that the Wu flu was spread intentionally at an event in October 2019 in Wuhan. So we'll get to the details on that later. The parents are your boss. Exactly. If she's at a public school, she's teaching. The parents literally are the bosses. I think that these teachers have really lost perspective as to who they are, what their role in society is, especially when they're at a public school. You're there to make the kids perform well, which is why the kids spend their tax money and choose to live in that area and send their kids to those schools because they want their kids to come out in an optimal manner. But when you're teaching them this kind of stuff, it's not going to work. Of course, they're going to have something to say about it. Let's go over to stereo, see what Courtney's got to say.
These teachers are so funny. I'm just counting down the days until, like, it becomes apparent that there's no other option except to homeschool. And it's getting pretty darn close.
Yeah, and I know I had a friend today who just called me. She was talking about how she had to come pick her kid. She had a call last night on Sunday night at like 6:30. A call from the school saying that her son was in contact with a kid who was positive. So think about that. Think about how inefficient that is. She now, as Monday morning, the kid can't go to school until he gets a negative test. You can't get a test until you schedule it and then go take it. Sometimes it takes 3, 4, 5 days to actually schedule these things before you can take it. So the kid's out of school for a week. I mean, it's a terrible system, and it's obvious that they don't really care much about making these kids educated and intelligent.
Yeah, I think the problem is too many parents have kind of propped up teachers and surrendered their power as parents to the teachers, and not too many parents actually give a crap about their children's education or actually involved in their children's education. The 10 school board meetings, 10 PTA meetings are actually involved in their kids' education. And so this woman has gotten drunk off the power. And then when there are parents that step up and say, like, you're not going to teach my kid critical race theory, you're not going to teach my kids about all of this nonsense that you're trying to push. And now, because she's been drunk off power and somebody's trying to sober her up, she's like throwing a little hissy fit and writing about it on Twitter. I just think it's hilarious.
Yep, it's indicative of a larger issue with the system. And of course, all these people that become teachers are fresh out of college, fresh off the indoctrination pipeline, the conveyor belt, as it were. I like to envision them as being on a conveyor belt, kind of being slowly put together by machines until they reach the end of the conveyor belt and they just fall off into a box that's labeled teachers. And that's basically how it goes. Let's go to Paul in stereo.
This fucking teacher about these MAGA kids. I want a number 1 supersize me of shit that didn't happen, Alex.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time somebody made up a story about this kind of oppression. Osa says, no wonder Jeremy has to piss like a racehorse post-stream, pounding water. Well, I got to keep hydrated, man. I get laryngitis if I talk too much. I don't hydrate, so...
Yeah, he has to keep those beautiful vocal cords of his nice and hydrated.
So moist. Okay, Osis.
3 professions in which females inhabit that they are the most crazy per capita. I'm not going to count soccer mom Karens that don't have jobs and stay at home. It's only women that actually have jobs. The first being teacher, the second being hairdresser, and the third being psychiatrist, psychologist. A good majority of the women that work in these professions are fucking insane.
I would say that's probably accurate, yeah. Especially, psychology is just as compromised as the teachers are because they all come from the same place. I'd say the least insane out of all 3 of those would be the hairdressers because they don't have to. Well, no, they do have to go to school for that, don't they? But it's not as bad.
They have to go to. Yeah, it's not as intensive. You got to go take, do your thing, get your training, and then you take a test and pass or fail. I mean, it's still like you still got to go to school, but it's not like an esthetician where you got to go to school to learn how to, do waxing, hair, makeup, all that stuff. Like you just learn how to cut hair and make sure the person's happy. But hairdressers are crazy.
Paul's got I wouldn't know because I've never had my hair dressed, but you would have a better view on that one. Paul's got
I go to barbers now.
Oh, of course, yeah, lesbian. I forgot the little lesbian thing.
Well, they're cheaper than the hairdressers, so.
That's true as well. Paul wanted to clarify his stereo comment. He was referring to the fact the teacher said that the kids said slavery never existed. So yeah, I mean, nobody I know, and I know a lot of people. I've never seen anybody say that slavery never existed. That is
Right?
totally off the ball. Let's go to the next story from this one's in a college because we want to make sure and cover all levels of education and show you how retarded this stuff really is. This is from this is one that I wanted to cover last week, but I didn't get to it because we went way long last week. Yeah, I mean, you guys missed out if you weren't there. Professors say American flags are, quote, symbol of American imperialism and violence in defense of student who defaced 9/11 memorial. So,
Oh,
yeah, so for 9/11, Washington University College Republicans put a bunch of little American flags out all over the campus in the ground. I think they were 3,000 flags, yeah, for all the people that were lost on 9/11. And then some guy named Fidel Al-Kilani was caught
of
on the
course.
morning of September 11th removing the 3,000 flags representing the lives lost on 9/11 from their display on the field, placing them in trash bags. He claimed that his removal of the flags was part of a protest of American imperialism and in remembrance of the lives lost in the war following 9/11. Quote, while there may be differing opinions on Fidel's choice of protest, the subsequent Islamophobic and racist response to his protest was intolerable. Isn't that great? It's like, no, well, I'm going to tear down your protest or tear down your demonstration. And if you say anything bad about me tearing down your demonstration, well, then you're intolerable. You're the racist. You're the Islamophobe. Isn't that just
Wow.
fantastic how that works? It's just, no matter where they are, they can always find a way to kind of twist it into being the victim. It's so, so great. You can tell the
Yeah.
professors teach these kids well. Furthermore, the chancellor's statement released on September 12th in response to these events undermined the objective of Fidel's protest, which was to educate our community and erase the oppression and violence that Muslims worldwide have endured as a result of 9/11. So, let's see.
Right. So we face a terroristic attack on our country that kills 3,000 people. And because of that, people respond terribly to Islamic people. And because of that, this guy thinks it's okay to disrespect all that, even though there were 3,000 people that died during 9/11. Like, this guy is nuts. Oh my goodness.
Well, the point of the story is that the professors came out in support of this guy, and the chancellor actually came out and condemned it. So that guy we were talking about, he came out and condemned it. But the professors are the ones who are saying stuff like, "While the American flag is a symbol of American lives lost, it's also a symbol of American imperialism and violence in the Middle East, North Africa, Central Asia, and beyond."
Oh my God.
Black, brown, Muslim, and Muslim Americans uniquely grieve both the lives lost on 9/11 as well as the millions of lives lost over the past 20 years in the Middle East. So, and then of course they claim that he was harassed and physically harassed, verbally and physically harassed by students while he was ripping the flags out. So, of course, no, the schools are literally teaching these kids that America is evil, and then you wonder why they come out and they want to destroy the entire system. It's not a shock.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, I think I saw this video last week or a couple weeks ago when this whole thing was going down. And I mean, I want to feel bad for these people that they've let themselves kind of be brainwashed by this whole thing, but I really can't feel bad anymore. It's just, it's whatever. I just focus on myself now. Like, they're lost.
Yeah, just to give you an idea, this wasn't like 3 professors. This was 1,700 students, several student organizations, faculty, community members, and other concerned peoples signed a online version of this statement. So 50 of them were at least 50 of them were faculty members of the university. So that's a
Wow.
lot of professors. I don't know how big this school is, but 50 professors, that's pretty massive. So it's really systemic. People hate America. They're teaching kids to hate America. So if you send your kids to school, don't be surprised if they come out hating you and hating America. That's the moral of that story. Let's go to Osis in chat. We'll jump to the next segment.
What I really want to know is when we're going to have countrywide January 6th Remembrance Days and just have that one flag out there, Ashley Babbitt, We're all going to just say how terrible it was because that poor girl shouldn't have died. And January 6th was so much like September 11th that everyone's going to talk about it 20 years from now. It's going to be all the history books
Good
and
point.
everything. Everyone's going to be remembering where they were on January 6th. I know where I was. I was working. I was so appalled. I was not laughing at all.
I wasn't either.
Regarding January 6th, also, I think a legal release just happened today on a lot of that footage. So now there's footage coming out of the people kind of invading the Capitol building, and it's incredibly underwhelming. We can see why they were trying to hide that now. It does not look like an insurrection at all. So go take a look at that when you get a chance, because there is more footage out there as of today.
Yeah.
Let's see. Holly says, aren't there units for nurses there? Okay, no. Crazies want the port cities and the majority of military bases. I don't think they're going to be able to actually form a military cohort that can actually be capable of fighting. If they do, I don't think it'd be much of a challenge. Let's go to Australia. Speaking of military cohorts, the police are getting pretty rowdy over there. Have you guys seen footage of Australia? I don't know if you've seen this, but
Yes.
I think about 3 or 4 days ago, the protesters, the anti-vaccine mandate protesters, completely demolished a line of Australian cops, and it looked like a successful kind of rebellion against the police, which, according to most people in America, would be a good thing as well, because ACAB, cops are bastards, all that good stuff. But it doesn't seem to be holding up. There has been massive protests over in Australia, and they're a little more advanced on the timeline than we are of the advancement of vaccine mandates and lockdowns. So it's a good kind of way to get a feel for what's coming down the pipeline here. And this is actually the freeway system in Melbourne being completely locked down by hundreds of construction workers, maybe thousands of construction workers.
Oh, that's definitely thousands.
That just came out, and they were literally just standing on the freeway blocking the street. So this is bigger than anything we've seen in America. We've seen, BLM protests come out in America, block traffic and stuff like that, but it's only ever maybe a couple hundred people at most. This is thousands of construction workers. And this is a follow-up to, of course, Twitter can't play the video because I'm streaming. I only have 450 megs down, and for some reason I can't play this crappy little Twitter video. But this is a follow-up to a trucker protest. They call them truckies, but the truck drivers in Australia protested, I think, about a week and a half ago. They just completely jammed up the freeways as well, with hundreds and hundreds of trucks. You can find footage of hundreds of trucks just stopped, lined up on the freeways. Guys, they're on full-on rebellion over in Australia right now. I didn't know if you understand what's going on over there, because there's a media blackout on this. Obviously, nobody in America is going to cover this. I don't even think Fox News is covering this, but you guys should be aware that there's a full-on rebellion happening in Australia right now. So good on them, I think, is what they like to say. Good on you. Is that what they say? Australians say? I don't know.
I think that's what they say. I'm not very fluent
Good
in
on ya.
Australian, but good on you, mate.
Yeah, there we go. Let's go with that. Meanwhile, there's also videos you can find. I'm not going to play them here because I obviously can't play videos right now, but police are arresting people who are protesting in the streets just for simply holding a sign protesting this. There was a video that's going around of a mother with her child just standing there with a sign, and a group of about 5 or 6 cops come and circle her and slowly drag her off into a cop car as her child is kicking and screaming and, obviously terrified because he doesn't know what's going on. And, it's like full-on police state over there. Also, one last thing I want to mention on Australia that is, it's really the full story on all this lockdown stuff. In a nutshell, these cops, one of the cops was cited as saying, I don't want to do the lockdowns either. I'm just doing my job because I don't have training or expertise to do anything else. And that's exactly how, the Nazis happened. That's exactly how people got in concentration camps. That's exactly how Australians are beating down women in the park for walking their dog or having a picnic with their children, which is happening as well. There's video footage of all that. This is because the cops are just following orders. So in case you're wondering, if you ever ask yourself, how did Nazi Germany ever happen? How could something that crazy possibly happen? Well, don't underestimate the the people's willingness to just go along with it because it's quote unquote their job, because that's what
Yep.
we're dealing with now.
Yeah, if more people in Nazi Germany actually stood up against the regime and said, "We're not going to do this. This is inhumane," I don't think. I mean, the concentration camps probably still would have happened because they would have just sent those people into the concentration camps. But yeah, I think the reason a lot of bad stuff happens in history is there's not enough people actually standing up and saying, "This is not right. This is not okay. We are not okay. We will not comply." And it's good that Australia is waking up and is starting to not comply. And especially people that are necessary in their society, like the truckies and the construction workers, because they're the ones building things and they're the ones that are helping helping the economy flow and helping the economy grow. And they're actually standing up and saying, "We are not going to stand for this. Go ahead and arrest us. You're not going to have you're not going to have truck drivers and construction workers if you arrest all of us. So good luck."
Yeah, and you know that they've got some power, and hopefully they actually follow through with it. That's the only problem is people talk a lot these days, but they never follow through. They say, "Oh, I don't want to. I don't. Vaccine mandates are terrible. They're evil." And then when their job puts a mandate on them, they're like, "Oh yeah, no, give me the shot. I don't care," because they don't even want to go through the minor trouble of having to find another job, which in all reality is not that bad, not that big of a deal. Of course, in certain circumstances it may be, but to give up your freedom. Come on, let's. You got to realize we're living in, and I think this is a big thing that I want to mention about the state that we're in. People like Jack Murphy went on Tim Pool's podcast a few days ago, and they had a big debate about his kids want to do baseball because they like baseball, but they can't do the baseball unless they get vaccinated. So things like that, we got to realize we're in a time when luxuries like that have to go by the wayside sometimes. And we know that doing something like baseball, for example, is a great way to instill values in your children that are going to make them into good adults. But there are other ways to do that. Baseball is not the only way. And we have to kind of realize that we're not going to do everything that we want to do. There's going to be some sacrifices. There's going to be some luxuries that we have to forego if you want to make it through this thing with your principles intact. And that's really the question, how much do people really want to stick to their principles? And I think the answer is not very much. Very few people actually want to. They talk a lot about, I don't want to do mandates, I don't want to do this, but they never, they don't do anything about it at the end of the day. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of things on like Instagram and social media saying like, especially here in California, because they're actually starting to implement kind of vaccine passports-esque in some parts of California. And a lot of people are just like, "Oh, you want me to take the jab so I can go to your restaurant and eat at your restaurant? Well, fine, I'll just stay home and make my own food. It's probably better for me anyways to make my own food and eat my own food." Who's really going to be the winner here when nobody wants to come to your restaurant because you're enforcing something that's stupid and makes no sense?
Agreed. And we're going to get into an exact case of that happening right now in New York City. But first, let's go to Courtney in stereo.
So something that I've noticed over this whole COVID thing is that, let's just say that there's a global theory, like there are globalists. They start in Australia. And then it slowly moves over. So I keep a very, very close eye on Australia.
Oh yeah, good girl.
Here, of course, we have a bit of different. We still have our guns. But things do trickle down from Australia. So I always keep a close eye on Australia.
Yeah, definitely. I think somebody else in the chat mentioned that China has a lot of influence over Australia, and that might be part of the reason why. I don't know the extent of that, but Rob B says Australia's gone full-on statist. Well, Rob, I just call it fascist. I think the fascist is the best way to address that. Let's see, somebody else. Oh, yeah, Holly was mentioning the KFC bust. Did you guys hear about this? Some guys in New Zealand got busted during the lockdown. They actually have to go to a trial because they went to get KFC during a lockdown. They got pulled over. They got pulled over with a trunk full of KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken, and now they're going to jail, or they're potentially facing jail time for it. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I saw a story of a TikTok influencer who got in trouble. I think she's in Australia. She got in trouble. Like her neighbors reported her because she went outside to film a TikTok video, and they even went as far as to like look at her like phone records and follow where she was geographically on her phone when she was doing all of this to like persecute her for going outside to film a TikTok video for a few minutes. It's getting crazy over there on the big island and the small island. So good luck to the Aussies and the Kiwis. I wish you luck, man. Because y'all have gone full blown crazy.
Society today is turning everybody into snitches. So there's always something to look out for. Like if a guy says something you don't like, dig up his Twitter post. If he's outside during the lockdown, call the cops or whatever it is. If you see a gym that's open during lockdown, call the health department. It's just a bunch of snitches, and it's really quite dishonorable society we've got now. I got the article pulled up here from BBC.com just to quickly show you guys what I'm talking about. Look at this. You remember those pictures where they do drug busts and they show the guns and the cash and all that stuff on the hood of the police car or on the This is the exact same thing, but instead they've got buckets of chicken on the hood of the car, as if it's like, "Oi, we got them." And they were getting the KFC because these guys went like across the 75 miles outside of Auckland to go get KFC. Just two guys get some fried chicken, and they broke the lockdown rules because of it. Tell me that's not a dystopian story. That is some dystopian stuff right there. Like you just got caught with some KFC, and now you're going to jail for it.
That's a lot of KFC for two people. What if they went to buy KFC for like their neighbors? Was it all just for them?
This is an underground KFC smuggling operation. Okay, this is a distribution network of fried chicken and coleslaw. They are making a lot of money off this. Now think about that. If you don't want to take the risk to go out to the KFC 75 miles away or whatever, you're gonna pay somebody else to do it for you, right? So yeah, obviously they've created an underground black market for fried chicken and coleslaw.
Wow.
I'm only half joking, but look at how stupid this is. And keep in mind that this is New Zealand, where they've got that bucktooth, what's her face name, the bobblehead lady who's just mentally ill. It's always female leadership in all these places that are the most insane. But let's pop over to stereo. I heard a bunch come in, and then we'll get to the next story.
Oh, I totally agree. You have to make sacrifices. How deeply are you going to stand on your principles? Are you willing to, not go to a football game? Are you willing to not go to a concert? Are you willing to not, to pull your children out of school, to not allow them to play sports, to not go to your favorite bar? And I've been thinking about this for about a year. And so I'm pretty darn standing steady in my principles. This is not, they can take everything away. The grocery store, that's the only thing that I'm worried about is the grocery store. But even then, I'll figure it out.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, think about the fact that we've got parallel societies operating in America right now that are entirely illegal as it is, like MS-13. They're thriving. They're perfectly happy. They're making profits. They're happy operating in a world where everything they do is illegal. So if they think that they could just mandate all this out of existence and then they'll comply, no, it's never going to work like that. We're always going to form our own parallel societies. We're always going to find a way around it. We're always going to pay the guy to go 75 miles to get me a bucket of coleslaw. There's always going to be something. Okay, people, we will adapt. So
yeah, if the drug cartels can operate in America and get the drugs across the border and get it into the hands of tweakers in this country, we could figure out a way to get our own damn groceries.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Let's see. Blessed equals privilege. And the YouTube chat says, remember when the Yum Corporation's chicken was left to rot at the docks in China and Taiwan, but they exported COVID-19? I don't know what you're talking about on that one, but you're saying the chicken comes from China? Let's see. Let's go to Osis.
Oi, you got a license for that chicken, mate.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's great.
Well, China has a whole lot to do with the globalist elite, regardless.
Yeah.
The whole United Nations was formed out of communism. Its original members were communists, and it was a whole communist plan to begin the globalist plan here in the United States. And then, of course, that has shifted over the decades. But without a doubt, all of this stuff, the WHO has also been in cahoots with China. That's been documented, and we can't trust them. But somehow we're taking all of the protocols from them. That's how all of this really ties in mysteriously.
Oh yeah, good perspective. Thank you for that.
I don't think China's actually trying to impose communism on us. I think they're just trying to destroy us from the inside, like weaken us with,
Yep.
political discourse or discord, because China's not even that communist anymore, people. China is like full on capitalist now. They're like
Yeah.
fascist capitalists. They're not communist. They've taken more people out of poverty in China in the last 20 years than it's astronomical how much they've done over there. People aren't poor. They're not living in squalor anymore. It's a high tech, for the most part, country, but of course they've got the authoritarian government residing above them. It's not communism at all. People can have free markets and stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, from what I've gathered and what I've researched about like the top, billionaires in the world, a lot of the top billionaires come from China. Like there are a lot that come from America and there's a lot that come from other places, but a lot of them are in China. So they're not as communist as people think. But yes, you are right on. They are authoritarian, and I mean, I guess it works for them because they're thriving. I mean, they're over there in their ivory towers, just looking at America and just watching us hurt ourselves and be mad at each other and want to hurt each other while they're over there just like laughing and breaking in our money like it's nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, when I say it's not communist, I'm talking about the strictly economic version of the communism where everything's owned by the government and they own the means of production. That's not how it works over there. That's not communist. So, it's not, by the textbook definition anyway, it's not communist over there. If anything, it's fascist because the corporations, though private, are controlled large part by the government, as Osist points out in the YouTube chat there. Candace Mitchell says, now all our SWAT men and women are being mandated or being in non-deployed status if they don't take the shot.
Yep.
Yeah, well...
Same thing with our military. I have friends who are in the military that got mandated to take the jab. Otherwise, they get a dishonorable discharge. So...
Yeah. Is it dishonorable? I heard it was honorable, but they want to do dishonorable.
I mean... I have a friend who's in the Navy, and she said that if she didn't take it, she didn't want to. She said that her khakis came and took her to the clinic to get the jab. Otherwise, she gets a dishonorable discharge. So I don't know if that's what they're telling them or if they're just saying that to get them to take it, but it's actually an honorable discharge. But still, like that's nuts to me that even our military members don't even get a say in it. I mean, I know that. Because I have family members that are in the military as well, and I know that they mandate certain ones, like they make you take certain ones. But this one, it's like all of a sudden they're just like, yeah, take it or else you don't get any money. You don't ever get to join back. Like screw you.
Yep. Well, like I said, we're not in easy times anymore. We're not in soft times, so people are going to take some hits if they want to stick to their principles, or you can just get the jab and live on. This guy's got another comment.
Yeah, the snitches is definitely a playbook, totalitarian playbook, without a doubt. And all of those liberals that are useless dummies are soon going to figure out that the government really doesn't give a crap about them. And they're going to be pretty brokenhearted to realize that they actually had a hand in bringing down our system and assisting in destroying our economy.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've had friends who are like black and Mexican and all kinds of different colors say snitches get stitches. It used to be that if you snitched on somebody, you get your booty behind beat because you don't snitch on anybody even if it's something really bad. Now all of a sudden we've empowered the snitches to come forward and rat out all the people that are going against the regime and trying to fight back. And what a paradigm shift that we've had with the snitches get stitches crowd.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what honor is, right? It's dishonorable society. You're just looking for any reason to report somebody else to the authorities. And we talked about that before in the stream. It's not a mystery. It's a schoolyard theory of psychology, which I posit, in which nothing in life, doesn't matter how complex you think adults are or society is or people are, nothing in life is ever more complex than a schoolyard recess playground, okay? Because
Yep.
there's always going to be the kids who think they're victimized or think they don't want to be, the cool kids don't choose to hang out with them, so they're going to find a way to snitch on them. They're going to find a way to get them in trouble. They're going to find a way to tell on them, tattletale. It's no different, folks. No more complex.
There was always the one kid. I remember in my elementary school days, there was this one kid who was like best friends with the yard lady. And whenever something went down,
She was her
the one
informer.
Yeah, he was the one that would run to her whenever we were like doing something that we shouldn't have done. Because at my school, we weren't even allowed to play tag on the playground. And if he saw one of us playing tag, he would run to the yard lady and tell her that we were all playing tag, and she would have to come and break us up. It's just
He's probably got a job in the FBI now.
probably. I mean, I haven't seen him since elementary school, but yeah, he was the yard lady's little henchman that would go and snitch on all of us when we were doing something. It was, and it's the same thing going on now. It's you're right, Jeremy. The schoolyard has never left our mentalities. It's just now the growing number of people snitching to the yard lady has increased, and the yard lady is now the regime or the government.
Exactly, yeah. They look for the closest authority figure they can to report you to, whether it's Twitter. They'll report you on Twitter. If it's in real life, they'll report you to your boss. They'll find a way. They just need the closest authority figure to take immediate action on something that you offended them with. Let's go to Paul in stereo.
I have to comment on that college professor complaining about the American war-making state. They teach the engineers, technicians, programmers, chemists, everyone who empowers the military-industrial complex, and they subscribe to the neoliberal narrative agenda of WMDs in Iraq, Obama's war-making in Syria, Libya, Yemen, and they're on the same dividing line as CNN, who first praised Trump for cruise missiling Syria. Syrian airfields. Besides the fact that every 21st century war until the Gulf War was a Democratic Party war. Wilson in World War I, FDR in World War II, Kennedy in Vietnam. And the extent to which they criticize the war-making state is a fact that they have to maneuver into a position of control of the state.
Yeah, or a classic case of projection yet again. You know, they're always saying that their enemies are doing exactly what they are doing. He's got a follow-up here.
Because I can tell you from a dispassionate anarchist military veteran perspective, Google War as a Racket, Smedley D. Butler, Major General. This claim in a vacuum has legs to stand on. We are a bellicose war-making state. We put our stamp on the world. But this professor has stepped into the middle of a current, culture war where the war-making decisions of the state are in a constant state of moral flux by the powers that be. The cathedral, the narrative, the, just consensus generation apparatus. He's standing on unsteady legs like Tulsi Gabbard. And none of them realize they are aligned financially and philosophically with the same powers enabling the war-making American corporate state. This professor doesn't know what the fuck is going on at all.
No, they're not aware that they've been looped into advocating for the war state. They're not aware they've been tricked into advocating for big pharma. That's how it's so genius. It's all really, really actually genius. If you step back and look at it, when this is all over, and you look at the playbook and everything that happened, the history of America, there's going to be some really good lessons to learn there, because we tricked people into being shills in advertising big pharma products while simultaneously getting them to hate capitalism. Tell me how that works. That's some genius level stuff. And it's the same thing with the anti-war stuff. They'll rail on, everybody for being pro-war, and then they'll just nuke 10 kids in a truck with water bottles, because it's exactly what we did. Remember that Biden came out and said we droned ISIS-K terrorists after we left Afghanistan, the airfield? Nope, wasn't Afghan terrorists, folks. It was like 7 children and 3 guys with a bunch of water bottles. They lied about the fact that there was secondary explosions. They lied about the fact that it was terrorists. They just literally blew up a truck full of kids and lied about it. They told us that they after the fact that they knew it was ISIS-K terrorists. So, and then they loved that drone strike too. So that's the paradox. It's fantastic to observe in real time. Let's go to Kiza.
On the subject of snitching, why wouldn't you snitch up your enemies? Just saying. I mean, when you snitch up the communists for being not very good communists, wouldn't you stitch up the government for lying to the public? Lying to the public. Just saying. I mean, I think Riley Freeman would say that it's very gangster.
It only works if you're the recess lady's on your side, though. The recess lady's not on our side, and the Republicans are so pathetic that they go every day. It's like, oh, look at our Democrats, look at what they did. Imagine if it was a Republican that did this, dude. Nobody cares. You're wasting your time, your energy, your life when you keep saying this kind of stuff, because the lunch lady and the recess lady aren't going to enforce any of the hypocrisy or the bad stuff that you keep on finding. So stop.
Yeah, when you try to snitch on the communists, but the people you're snitching to are pro-communist, it's kind of a futile effort to snitch on the people who love communism. So there's not enough yard ladies out there who are anti-communist who'll be like, okay, I'm going to do something about this. There's not enough of them.
Let's see. Bubulski says in the YouTube chat, when I look up past the size 34 boot on my neck, I'll see MasterCard looking down back at me. Yes. That's exactly what it will be. You get an advertisement as you're getting the boot on your neck. They want to make sure that they're not wasting any time, any potential opportunities to sell you more products. Maybe a cushion for your neck as you're getting the boot on your neck. They can sell you a cushion.
Hell
they'll
yeah.
always find a way.
Or they'll put up like a class action lawsuit about, have you had a boot on your neck lately? You might be entitled to some financial compensation.
All right, one more from Blues guy, and then Courtney.
Without a doubt, any system economic system has to realize that it's through the markets and the markets that they're going to be able to grow. But within the members, the citizens in that government, they themselves are not able to independently be free to grow their own economies and stuff like that, and move and be run that same type of free market system outside of the government. They own it all. The government owns it all, and of course they use the capitalist system in order to grow and grow power. But then their people are not free. So that is without a doubt pure and unadulterated communism, when they have their boot on people's necks, and those people do not have any kind of freedom, regardless of how many iPads they have.
I would say the lack of freedom doesn't necessarily indicate communism. I mean, that's just authoritarianism, right? If the government is all powerful, that's just authoritarianism. It doesn't say anything as to the economic state, and I think that's what communism really refers to, is an economic state, or a series of economic decisions that how the government is going to run society. But I keep thinking to myself, as not devil's advocate, but just as we think out loud, which is one of the things we do here at the alt-centrist podcast on the Weekly Narrative. We think out loud, and one of the things we think out loud on is the fact that if you have a society as big as China, do you need some kind of authoritarianism to even run that efficiently? I keep thinking that the answer is yes, because if you look at China, all indications are they're going to surpass us, not only in economic, but also socially, because they are taking authoritarian controls over their society to limit girly men on TV, for example, because they recognize that hyper-feminized society is a death knell for social cohesion, and which is exactly what we're experiencing here in America, right? So they see these kind of things. You can't impose those controls that would save your country at that scale unless you have a fully authoritarian government. So it's just one of those fun kind of thought experiments that we'll have to wait until time plays out to know the answer to. Let's go one more from Courtney, and then we'll go to the next topic.
Just a few years ago, the left would say, oh, big pharma, and now...
Yep, exactly.
that's all they're advocating for. It's very interesting, and you're right. This is going to be something that is going to go down in the history books and going to be studied generations to come. It was an excellent move. It was an excellent move to scare people so much into totally changing their positions on just about everything.
Yeah, and they're exploiting the fact that number one, that those people don't have any principles. So when they can be easily convinced that big pharma is bad, but then the next day, if they hear an emotional argument sufficient enough to trigger anger or rage or whatever it is, they'll switch on a dime. It's like, oh yeah, no, big pharma is great. There's this. Oh my God, there's a video out there of some band that I don't listen to, never would listen to, called Kaiser Chiefs, and they're doing a concert, and the concert's obvious. It's a fairly big concert. Presumably everyone that is in the concert is vaccinated, and the lead singer of the band is up there, and he's like, okay, everybody put your hands up in the air. Who took the Pfizer? And then half the crowd cheers. And then he says, who took the Moderna? And then half the crowd cheers. And then he does the next one. It's like a very, think about what's happening here. They're cheering for big pharma. It's like something you'd see out of Futurama, some weird backwards dystopian stuff where they're cheering for, who drives a Chevy? Yeah, what? Why are we cheering for big corporations and the products that we take from those corporations? But they've been tricked into it because they're all easily manipulatable. It's fascinating to watch. It really is.
Yeah, I go back. I saw a meme a while ago, and it was, the song Rage Against the Machine, where it's like, F you, I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah.
And that was the left back in the 90s. It's like, F you, I won't do what you tell me.
Right.
And now the left has shifted to F you, do what I tell you, or do what they tell you.
Yeah,
It's
the exact opposite.
It's like the exact opposite. It went from the left was the anti-establishment, the anti-authority. Now they've just become the authority, and it's like, listen to what I have to say, or else you're going to go in the gulag. It's just incredible, the shift.
And you know why that happens, right? Because we're not going to be like the other conservatives channels or the Fox News people who just point out the hypocrisy and point out these kind of things. But you got to understand why it's happening. And we all know why. The people who watch this channel a lot know exactly why. But I want to make sure for anyone new that's watching, you got to understand why that's happening. It's because society has been hyper feminized to value feminine traits over masculine traits. Things like fairness, things like equality, things like safety, safetyism. Okay, that's the new religion. Safetyism. Anywhere there's a potential risk, I'm not taking it. There's no risks. We need to make sure COVID is 100% gone, 100% vaccinated, et cetera, et cetera. You get my point. So this wouldn't have happened in a society that was otherwise, say, predominantly masculine if we were in an actual so-called patriarchy, which we are not, very much not in a patriarchy. If we weren't a patriarchy, COVID would have never even happened. It would have just been a little blip on the radar, like what local news channels have been covering. You could see the parallel universe story. It's just one guy and like Fox 13 local main news channel says, well, a new variant of a coronavirus was observed today in a hospital, and 2 people were sick with it. Now on to the weather. That's literally all this would have been if the only thing that you changed in this universe was the fact that we are actually in a masculine society, a patriarchal society, where we value meritocracy. We're more risk taking. We're not going to be succumb to emotional arguments. We're not going to succumb to illogical arguments. And I think it's very important to understand that, because you'll see the same method being used everywhere else. Anytime they want to convince you or anybody else, just look at the triggers that they use. It's always, think of the children. It's not going to make us, it's going to make us unsafe. It's the exact same things over and over and over again, because they know that you are operating off of the feminine imperative, the feminine traits, and all they have to do is push those buttons. Emotion. Safety. Think of the kids. Bing, 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 and they'll get you to do whatever they want. It doesn't really matter, and that's exactly how they can get you to love pharma one day and hate pharma the next day.
Yeah.
Or anything else.
Right. It's amazing how we've shifted so far in our society.
All right. Speaking of Total paradoxes and shifts. This is the greatest. And we called this out. We're going to go to New York City for a story of black women attacking an Asian hostess over vaccine passports. I was going to say black scene passports. Maybe that could be a thing. Black scene. So New York City has, of course, as we all know, the vaccine passport system, the Enjoy New York system, where you can have fun in New York, do whatever you want, go to restaurants, go to hotels, all that good stuff, as long as you have the passport. Now, if you don't have the passport, you don't have the vaccine, which, for those of you who don't know, the black population is the most vaccine hesitant out of all. So as we are told, at least by the left, we're going to go by the definition that they give us to operate off of, any kind of statistical discrepancy which results in unfair treatment of colored people or results in a statistical discrepancy disfavoring colored people. That's the only definition of racism now. Anywhere there's a statistical discrepancy, that's racism. It doesn't matter what the intent is or anything like that. So, of course, this is example of that, because guess what? Blacks aren't as vaccinated. They are going to be excluded from restaurants and everything else more than whites. And I told you guys, intersectionality is great because the left are going to end up eating their own eventually, and this is the best example of that right now. From Daily Mail.
Yes.
BLM plans Carmine's protest. Texas woman filmed attacking New York City restaurant hostess after she questioned their vaccination cards, said they were racially profiled, and the N-word was hurled. Not the N-word.
Oh no, nothing but the N-word.
Anything but that. So, okay. 3 black women went to this restaurant. They got removed or at least approached because of their vaccination status, and they ended up attacking her. So obviously, I'm joking about this whole thing. I'm not on the side of these black women because they did just attack this woman out of thin air with no provocation. But, of course, we can delight in the delicious irony of the entire intersectional situation that's happening here, right? Because guess what? Black Lives Matter is now talking about, well, they did actually go protest. So let's first of all, let's take a look at the altercation. If this video will play here.
Oh, wow. Over the podium and everything.
Yep, the podium outside the restaurant's getting knocked over.
The chef even came out and got involved. Damn.
They're trying to pull these women apart. It's not, I mean, it's women fighting, so it's obviously not going to be too, entertaining, but they're just kind of shoving each other around, trying to pull each other apart. And in true New York fashion, of course, there's just like truss work and construction happening all around it. What a terrible place to live. God, that'd be so awful. Everything around you is just surrounded by trash, and it's in constant construction because everything's falling apart. But that's beside the point. Anyway.
I was going to say, that's like San Francisco.
Yeah, no, pretty much. 3 black Texas women were arrested and charged with misdemeanor assault and criminal mischief. They were given desk appearance tickets in order to appear in court on October 5th. So the hostess, quote, refused service to these women and got hostile with them, Moore said in his statement on Friday. And, okay, all right, so that's the first story on that. Let's go see what happened. What was the reaction to this? Now, of course, anytime somebody, a black person gets mistreated, whether rightfully or wrongfully, guess who's going to show up? Yep, you know it, guys wearing Black Lives Matter shirts and megaphones. And that's exactly what happened, guys. Think about this. Black Lives Matter is showing up at restaurants for enforcing vaccine mandates. Oh, this is the best timeline. I love it. So this video that won't play is just a video of what appears to be about 24 Black Lives Matter protesters gathering outside the restaurant, the same one that we just saw the video of, the attack happening. And they're harassing the owner, the manager, whoever it was there, basically saying, you're using this for your white supremacy, and of course the same exact things they say about everything else. So it's fun to see the vaccine mandates being slotted into their traditional Black Lives Matter cookie cutter arguments. But let's go now to what the BLM leaders in New York actually have to say about this, because they are making some statements. And I think this is just so juicy. From the Federalist.com, Black Lives Matter is threatening an uprising against racist vaccine mandates. Yes,
Oh, wow.
that's right. So, again, I told you guys the best comedy of 2020 and 2021 is the fact that the leftists told black people for years now, years straight, hey, the system's racist, the system hates you, the system it wants to kill you, and that system is racist against you. Constantly telling them that the system is racist against them. And then they say, oh, but hey, the system wants you to take this vaccine now. Of course they're going to say no. And because they made their own bed and now they have to lay in it. And this is exactly what their bed is made out of. So Hawk Newsom, the co-founder and chairman of Black Lives Matter of Greater New York, was quoted Saturday in the New York Times saying that restaurants are, quote, using vaccine mandates to enforce their racist beliefs and excluding black patrons. Oh, man, this is so good. Obviously,
wow.
that's not the case. It's not. I'm sure, like these restaurateurs are just like, oh yes, finally, God, vaccine mandates, so I can kick all these blacks out of my restaurant. That's what they think is happening. Now, obviously, that's not true either. So they're fighting kind of like their own minds again. They're making things up out of thin air. But it just so happens in this particular case, they're fighting the imaginary people that work in our favor. So it's entertaining as hell to watch it happen. I don't know. What do you think, Delaney?
Oh, I think it's hilarious because I remember them saying, Black Lives Matter in particular, saying that people should take they should take the vaccine just to be safe, and now they're mad that the
Really?
people who aren't taking, yeah, I mean, now they're mad that the people who aren't taking it are being discriminated against, and now so this is something that I can kind of get down with Black Lives Matter about. This, the one thing,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, they are. I mean, it's not racist. It's just this is what they have. This is what is being mandated by the state or in the city. But still, like, I agree with them. Like, this isn't right. Like, medical discrimination is terrible. Like, this is awful. So this is one thing I could probably agree with Black Lives Matter on. Like, this is a good thing. I don't agree with them saying that it's racist, but it's just, yeah.
Well, it's racist
It's
by their
hilarious.
definition. Remember, we defined racism at the beginning of the segment as any statistical discrepancy, right? So this
Yeah,
matches
that's
the
right, yeah.
definition perfectly. So it's no surprise that they're not catching on to this. I'm actually a little shocked that it took this long, but well, that's not no,
Right.
this thing in New York has only been in place for a couple weeks. So I think maybe this is actually a pretty good pace. They're catching on pretty quick. And
Well, and I think it's hilarious too because remember at the beginning of the year the whole hashtag Stop Asian Hate
oh yeah,
that was like running
that
rampant.
scam.
Well, yeah, that whole scam. Well, now that the lady that denied these women service because of their
She was
thing,
Asian.
she was an Asian. She was Asian, and they attacked her. I thought we were supposed to stop Asian hate, but I guess that whole
So many
hashtag
layers
lost
to the story. God, it's great. This is like my favorite
That-
story.
yeah, that whole hashtag like lost its I guess its bearing in society when it comes to
Yeah.
the vaccines and the whole vaccine mandate and the show me your papers attitude that people have. Like it's kind of just it's hilarious because we kind of predicted this a while ago with the whole Stop Asian Hate thing, that the only people, not the only, but most of the Asian attacks that are being shown in the media are
99%.
coming. Yeah, most of them are coming from, the black and brown population. And
Yep.
we're seeing that now. And now they're protesting the restaurant. It's just, oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of angles on this. The Stop Asian Hate thing, and now we have black people attacking an Asian. So that's one layer, which is great, juicy as hell. And then we have the vaccine layer, which is great, and then the racism layer, which is also great. I mean, Jesus, this story's got everything.
Yep, it's got everything.
Okay, so at a protest Monday in front of the New York restaurant Carmine's, Shavona Newsom, also a co-founder of the group, said the vaccine mandates, quote, what is going to stop the Gestapo, I mean the NYPD, from rounding up black people, from snatching them off the train, off the bus? Ooh. Remember, she's talking about vaccine mandates here, okay? She further issued the threat that BLM was putting the city on notice that your mandate will not be another racist social distance practice, and that, quote, black people are not going to stand by or you will see another uprising. She said the vaccine verification is not a free passport to racism. Oh, my God. Yes, this is hilarious, and I love it.
I love it too. This is, I mean, We called this a while ago when it came to BLM. They were just going to eat themselves, and they totally have, and it's awesome. I live for this.
Well, the left is, if you, anybody that understands the left and how they operate is, it's inevitable to see that they will eventually end up eating their own, and this is a perfect case of that happening, because when you have no principles and your lines of reasoning are just flying across every direction, they're going to intersect at certain points, and it's not going to work. Okay, and this is an exact case of one of those. So I think we need to see more of this. You know, think about this. The reason the whole hoax about racism even exists is because little minor incidents get recorded on camera and then shared on social media, right? So, I mean, think all we really, really honestly need is like 2 or 3 more of these to happen to get a lot of traction and attention. And that's got to be it for the vaccine mandates, right? At least in New York City, because if we're at least to follow the trend that we've seen with previous quote unquote racist incidents with social media and the fact that that's how they spread, I don't think it's going to last very long.
Well, it gets me because they're claiming that this was racist, but them attacking an Asian woman for denying them service because she thought that their vaccine passports were illegitimate, that's not racist. And it's like, if you could have instead of sitting there and attacking this woman and assaulting this woman, you could have just gone to another restaurant. I'm sure there are plenty of other restaurants in New York City that would have taken your vaccine and not your vaccine passport and not questioned it. But instead of doing that and being smart and not involving the police, not involving the government into your problem, they decided to act out emotionally and attack somebody over something stupid. Like they're not playing the smart route. They're just playing the emotional route of like, I'm gonna throw a fit and get what I want, even if the cops get called. It's like, if you don't want the cops called, don't assault somebody. That's the easiest way to not get the cops called on you.
They don't understand that. Come on, we all know that.
I guess, but still, it baffles my brain a little bit.
Dari in the YouTube chat says, so what about the people in Texas removed from a restaurant for wearing masks? Oh, see, this is the hilarity of it all, because there's opposites happening, and depending on where you are. So again, New York, kicked out for not wearing not wearing a mask, not having a vaccine. Texas, get kicked out for wearing a mask. And honestly, all I got to say to that is, just move to the state that it's gonna suit your life better. I mean, if you want to wear masks and you love getting mandates shoved up your ass all the time, then go to New York, go to LA, go to San Francisco, enjoy it. But hopefully this spawns kind of a great separation. People start moving around and exercising their freedom of movement before, at least anyway, our freedom of movement is removed for not having vaccines, which they're also talking about now, which is just fantastic. All right.
Well, that's hilarious, because I know so many people here in California, because you know the whole saying in Texas, don't California my Texas. Well, now in California, people are saying, don't Texas and Florida our California. And I look at Texas and I look at Florida, and, you know, you guys over there don't really have as many problems that we are having here in California. And I'm just sitting here thinking, why not bring a little bit of Texas and a little bit of Florida into California? It seems like whatever y'all are doing over there is working. So why not bring it here and try to do something about it, instead of just sitting here and saying, don't Texas my California. It's so stupid.
All right, let's go to Stereo Sports Rumble.
So essentially what you're telling me is the left is eating itself alive. Okay, I like this then. I like the left eating itself alive.
Hell yeah.
I can handle that.
Yep, I told you guys. All we got to do is sit back and let them destroy themselves, okay? Because when you're that stupid and you're that lacking in principles, it's inevitable that you're going to self-destruct. They're literally running on momentum right now. So imagine you were going down the freeway, you had the engine on, you had the gas down, the engine was running, but then the power died to the car, right? The engine is not running anymore, but they're still moving. Okay, that's kind of the state that society and the left in general, especially right now, is, because they had all the institutional power, they have all the media, they have everything captured, but they're not self-propelling anymore. They were leeching. They were parasitic off of everything that the real people created and did and produced. So now they're just coasting, and they're gonna just chaotically crash into each other as their intersectional narratives intersect and don't match up. It's great. Enjoy the show. Get your popcorn. Kizza.
Yeah.
No, Delaney, we should not give them any sympathy or defend them. They should be forced to all take the vaccine because ultimately they supported the Democrats and they're the ones who push it. So they should lie in the bed that they made.
I agree.
And not only that, all those Democrat areas should have the police completely defunded and let them become victims of all the massive crime spikes. They're going to happen. No sympathy, no remorse, no regret, except their fate.
Yep.
Well, that's already happening, and we talked about Minneapolis last week. They're having crime waves and shooting waves and murders beyond anything they've seen, and they're still talking about getting rid of the police. Give them what they asked for. Just give it to them.
I remember, I think it was like maybe a month or two ago, there was like a news reporter talking about in Minneapolis, the autonomous zone, and they were like set up outside the autonomous zone. And then the news reporter's like talking, he's like, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden you hear in the background, pop, 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 pop. And the news reporter's like ducking. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, I think that there was some shooting that just happened right behind me. I'll keep you guys updated.
That was great. Oh, man.
It was awesome. That was the best. Like, it just shows you in real time what's going on in there and how this autonomous zone that they set up over there is just, oh my God, it's just not helping anybody.
Okay. Paul's got a comment, and then Sports Rumble's got a follow-up.
Thinking out loud, communism, China, and all that kind of stuff. It's really very simple. So the real political spectrum is not this like when you go to the far left, you go to the far right. Communism and fascism meet together. No. The real political spectrum is the extent of government control.
Right.
Far left is super government. Nazism and communism coexist at the same time. On the far right is
I agree.
anarchy, and somewhere in between is a constitutional republic. The Nazism is national socialism. It's literally in the definition. We are socialists, and they had state control of the economy. And communism is international socialism. That's why they wanted to go all across the world. It's actually very simple.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the way that the teachers are teaching the political spectrum is that if you're on the far right or somewhere on the right side of the spectrum, you're a Nazi or you're whatever, and then people on the left are the anarchists.
Yeah, the whole civics system in America and our education system around it is awful. It's really, really bad. So if people don't understand what fascism is or what communism is, and then they go around and call everyone fascists.
Yeah, call everyone fascist or a racist, so that way your argument is sound and they don't have anything to rebuttal with. And it's hard for somebody when you call them a racist to disprove that they are a racist. So just go with that. That's the tactic nowadays.
Oh, you like my metaphor? That's good. I thought it was a pretty good one. I thought of that the other day. And testing it out here, it seems like the crowd liked it. Let's go to Sports Rumble's got a follow-up.
No, the left this is what the left is. The left is a car running on empty, not sure how much further it can go. It's about to run out and die. They just don't know when. That is the left at this point. They just don't know when the car is going to stop rolling. But they're on empty.
I think our metaphor is basically the same.
But that's where they're at.
Yeah.
And yeah, California could have used a little Florida and Texas. Because you're right. But you had a chance to vote Larry Elder in, and you may have voted for him, or other people may have. But not enough people voted for that to be able to change California. And that's kind of a...
Yep, I agree. I voted for Larry Elder just for the record.
Yeah.
and that's something that I addressed a few weeks ago when it came to all this, is that the Republican Party in California is just like non-existent. And I mean, a lot of the counties are actually red in California, but it's just like where all the people are populated. San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, LA are predominantly blue, and those are the ones that's where most of the people who vote, and it's just, and there's a lot of populace, and yeah, California is just not the Republican Party in California is just not united behind anybody, and it was just, yeah, California just screwed up, but it's okay because we have a gubernatorial election next year, so hopefully we'll be able to get have a good candidate that everybody can get behind and
Build back better.
Somebody different. Yeah, not build back better, but just get behind.
Can get the build back better behind.
Hopefully get Newsom out, but I don't think it's going to happen because again, Californians are just, I don't know if we're lazy or if there's just not enough people who actually see the destruction that the Democrats have done to this state. I don't know. So it's a long battle, and maybe consider moving out of California. I may be considering moving out of California soon, but we'll see.
Yeah, life's too short to deal with that. I'm not going to waste my time like, oh, let's 20 years, let's try to fight back against the government and get a Republican in. It's like, I'd rather just move to Texas.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Yeah, it's a little easier. Let's go to Courtney's got a chat, and then we'll go to the next segment.
That's a great metaphor. No, I think actually at this point, they have already run out of gas, and now they're just pushing the car, trying to get it to a gas station. They're just hoping they'll make it, but they've run out. Run out.
Yeah, well, the thing is, none of them are really strong enough to push the car, so they're just sitting there hitchhiking and hoping somebody picks them up.
Yeah, yeah. They definitely would not be able to push the car. Okay, let's go to... I want to go to a Vice article that I thought that was just absolutely astonishing. This is... I couldn't come up with any other words to describe the author of this article other than a brainlet. And if you're not...
He put brainlet in the note.
I don't even know what, not retard, it's just brainlet, like just tiny little brain. So Vice came out with an article trying to dissuade everyone from the idea, trying to dispel the idea of a natural immunity. And in the process, they let everyone know that they absolutely have no idea what natural immunity even means. And I don't know if this is intentional or if this person just has absolutely no idea what's going on. Of course, what is the law that says you should always attribute the thing to lack of knowledge as opposed to malice? I totally butchered that, but there's a rule out there that says assume the person's just stupid and not malicious. So we'll go with that in this article, and see if maybe we can't decide otherwise.
It's either that or she just has a terrible editor, and I'm going probably with they're just both really stupid at this point.
Is that Occam's razor? No, Occam's razor is the simplest explanation. Is usually there's a different one for this one, Osis, I think. But anyway, of course, there's a picture of a black lady on the screen because we all know they're trying to target black people. And this is the best part, is they all know that blacks are the least vaccinated too. So if you go to like YouTube, every time I go to YouTube, I get slapped with like 8 recommended videos of like, listen to this black doctor tell you why the vaccine is totally safe. You should get the vaccine. And then another black person right here, it's like, oh man, I could have a barbershop again. Yeah. And it's like, dude, this is way beyond obvious that we all know that black people don't want to get the vaccine, but yet here we are pretending as if that's not the case. Okay. Last month, Ashley Richards, a woman whose 46-year-old husband died after contracting the Delta variant of COVID, wrote an open letter to unvaccinated Americans urging them to get the vaccine, of course, because they love pumping us full of these stories. Every single day, outlets are pumping stories like, look at this guy, he's on a ventilator, and he's just like, oh, yeah, I should have got the vaccine.
Right.
Every day. Because they want to fear you into getting the vaccine. Obviously, they're using people's pain to convince you to get the vaccine, which is obviously atrocious in and of itself. But I mean, this is the kind of dystopian reality that we live in. Quote, she said, "We thought we were invincible." She wrote, "Our thoughts were that we were young and healthy, and that if the virus reached us, we'd be sick for a bit, and that we'd move on with our lives." Well, first of all, if that's actually her I mean, she's pretty overweight. So you should know that if you're fat like that, guys, you're going to have a tougher time with this thing, okay? If there's any fat people here who haven't heard us say it a million times already, this thing only kills obese people and old people. So if you don't know that already, your head has been under a rock for a long time. I mean, we knew this basically like a year and a half ago. So, okay, so Vice pumps the fear with her story, and eventually they try to interview a doctor to dispel you of the idea of natural immunity. So experts emphasize that if you made it this far without contracting the virus, it's because you've been lucky, not because you're invincible or have natural immunity, which doesn't exist.
Huh. I didn't know I don't have an immune system that works. Okay.
No, it's if you come into contact with COVID and you don't get sick, you just got lucky. That wasn't your immune system fighting it off. You know, if you were asymptomatic, it wasn't like you had an immune system already in place that handled it. You just got lucky.
Oh, okay.
The professor of clinical medicine of infectious diseases at University of Cincinnati College of Medicine went on to say this kind of thinking fits into the common mindset that, quote, bad things will happen to other people, but not us. Quote, you hear a lot of people getting hit by a car, but you don't think it's going to hit you, or you don't think it's going to be you. He said people who say things like, quote, I've always been pretty healthy, so I'll be fine. COVID will happen to somebody else. Now, has anybody here, like, I've always said openly on the stream many times, I'm pretty healthy, so I don't care if I get COVID. It's never COVID will happen to somebody else. It's always I accept the risk of getting COVID because I'm not 600 pounds myself, right? I don't have any kind of comorbidities. So that was the word I was looking for. So they're distorting, again, I think they're projecting. They think people are really literally saying that this won't happen to them. But, I mean, the natural immunity thing, how could you not understand what natural immunity is? They interviewed a professor of clinical medicine in the Division of Infectious Diseases. How do they not understand this? Natural immunity,
Right.
just to clarify for everyone who may not know what we're talking about here, natural immunity meaning you got sick, and then you have antibodies to it. You're naturally immune to COVID because you already got sick. Now, I think they're twisting the definition to mean that your natural inbuilt immunity before you ever get infected at all is something that will protect you from even getting it, which could also, I think, be true, right? I mean, that's what do you think asymptomatic cases are. And as the study that we're going to cover next will show, your health does have a direct effect on your outcome for COVID and the mortality rate. So they're trying to, I think they're trying to straight up lie to people here. But again, I have to attribute this to just retardation and not mouse. I don't know. What do you think? Does this seem like maliciousness or just they have no idea what's going on?
I think they have no idea what's going on. I mean, with how we change definitions of everything nowadays, I think that they've just bought into the lie that natural immunity just doesn't exist. Our immune systems are not strong enough to handle this thing, even though generations before all of us even existed were able to handle a lot worse things in life. I think that they've just kind of bought into the lie. I don't think that there's malice. I think that they've just bought into the lie and are playing dumb. That's what I think.
Oh, check this out. So we talk about the feminine mindset, right? They just straight up openly admit that that's what they're operating off of because they say here, adopting the mindset that you'll be okay and, quote, natural immunity will protect you. You're not doing your part to protect yourself or others because it's your responsibility to protect me, Delaney. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that's actually, that's your job.
Oh, I didn't know it was my job to protect other people. I thought first and foremost, it's my job to protect myself. I guess I missed the memo on protecting other people, that I have no idea who they are, what they believe in, what their principles are. I guess I just lost that memo in the pipeline. My bad.
Yeah, no, everyone else is also your responsibility. It's not just you, but you are responsible for the health of everybody else. They go on to say, on top of that, they're like tripling down. They're saying, quote, you're getting the benefit from other people who do get the vaccine and walking through life on the coattails of others. Wow. But your luck may run out eventually, especially given how transmissible the Delta variant is and the fact that mask mandates in several states have been walked back. Well, thinking past the sale on that one a bit because you haven't proved that the mask mandates even work. Actually, there are many studies out that show that mask mandates do not do anything at all.
Yeah. And I thought that was the whole point of the whole herd immunity thing, is that enough people are vaccinated so that way the unvaccinated are safe and protected from the herd that are vaccinated. But then again, they did
Right.
change the definition of herd immunity just recently. So I guess I'm just out of the loop on that one as well.
They've changed both the definitions of immunity and the definition of vaccine so that it's actually accurate to say that if you're vaccinated, somebody else who's unvaccinated can harm you or put you at risk. So no, they had to change it because the vaccines obviously don't work as well. They don't give you sterilizing immunity. But yeah, this is I thought this was astonishing, and this is what people on the left are actually reading and going by. They think to themselves, oh yeah, there's no thing. So they're going to read this and think that there's no such thing as natural immunity at all, and they're not going to understand that all these people who already got COVID are basically essentially already vaccinated. So they're definitely not following the science, which is exactly what they're telling everybody else to do. Ironically, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is Vice, so they don't really believe in science like they say they do. So I don't trust anything that they have to say.
Yep. Apparently we're getting buffering, and I confirmed that there's absolutely no issues on my side, and that it is 100% YouTube. If anything is going on, it's YouTube throttling us. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Oh well, according to this, I've got 580 megs up, or 15 meg upload speed, so we're fine. Okay, so speaking of the Wu flu, the COVID, the coof, let's go to the big bombshell of the night, I think. Actually, let's go to Courtney first, and then while I load up the bombshell here.
Yeah, first of all, I can't believe any of these stories of the people on their deathbeds saying, "I wish I would have gotten the vaccine."
Yeah, right.
Like, what in the world? Who says? And perhaps it happened. I don't know, and I don't want to diminish anybody's last moments, but I do wish in all of these articles they would post their weight.
Right?
That's all. You know,
Yep.
you say this person aged whatever, died, like they wouldn't have died without if they had just gotten the vaccine. Well, I want to know everybody's weight. That's it. Like, you
Yep.
give their name, how old they are. We need to start adding the weight to this because this is becoming ridiculous. There's a definite trend, and we need to start looking at it. We already have looked at it. That's the problem. We've already looked at it for, what, a year ago?
The fact that they're not talking about obesity as much as they are is the red flag in and of itself. That is the story,
Yeah.
right? Like that tells you that that's exactly what's going on because they don't want to talk about it. They're trying to hide it.
Because it's fat phobic. That's why we
Right.
don't want to talk about people's weight and how having a lot of weight in your system and having a lot of weight on your body can cause a lot of harm. They don't want us to talk about that because you can be healthy at any size, or so they say.
Yeah, you've got quite a bit of a hole. Just like the racist thing where you tell black people that the system is racist and then you're surprised when they don't want to take a shot from the system. They tell you for years that being obese is healthy and that you can be healthy at any size, and then you face reality again. Yet another example of where intersectionality fights itself. They have to admit that being obese is not healthy, and it will affect your outcome for things like COVID and your mortality rate. So, I love seeing those stories of. I don't love seeing people get suffering, but I love the confirmation that every time it's one of those stories of you should take the vaccine because look at me, they're always fat. So I'm like, oh great, yeah, I definitely don't need to get it because I'm not half as big as that guy. So it's kind of having the reverse effect that they wanted to on people like me because I see that, and every time I see one, I feel more safe. Now,
Yeah.
if you show me guys with six packs and tan skin because they got a lot of vitamin D, if you show me them dropping like flies every day, I'd think twice. But every time
Yeah.
it's some pasty, disgusting 400, 500-pound guy, I'm like, oh, yes, exactly. Thank God. Okay. It's not people like me.
Yeah, it's always like they got extra weight, they got diabetes, they got asthma, they've got heart problems, lung problems. There's always other factors that go into them passing away from this thing, but they never want to mention that because it interrupts the narrative that this is only targeting healthy people. No, it's not targeting unhealthy people. It's targeting the unhealthy who eat
Yep.
terrible, have extra weight, have all these health problems that could be resolved, if not foregone, if they would lose the weight. But we don't want to talk about that because we've convinced society that if you're obese, then you're healthy. If you eat terrible, you're still healthy, even if you eat
If you
processed food all day.
if you actually think about it, the left has a lot of these deaths on their actual hands because they were lying to everyone, saying that it's okay to be healthy, so it's okay to be obese. So think about this: 5 years ago, you read some propaganda from the leftists that says it's okay to be healthy. You can be healthy at any size. So you're like, oh, great, okay, fine. I'm not going to worry about losing any weight. So you pack on like 150 pounds, 200 pounds. Next thing you know, you're in an ICU bed because this random virus came out of nowhere. And, well, guess what? All that weight you gained is going to destroy your ability to come out of this thing unscathed. So, yeah, as Zen points out in the YouTube chat, he says, it's just natural selection.
It is.
That's pretty much it.
It,
If you
it is.
if you fell for the lie that being healthy at any size was real, I mean, not to be too crude here, but your genes may not deserve to survive. We need to bring some cruelty back into reality here because people are too soft as it is. All right, let's go to Purple Kush, and then we'll get this bombshell going.
You're getting the black COVID articles on YouTube as well? I thought it was just because I was black.
No, dude, everybody. Yeah, every time I load up YouTube, I get like dozens of black videos. Like, look at this doctor, this black doctor. Look at this black barbershop owner. He can open a shop now because he got the vaccine. They know. By the way, his avatar was black,
really
so I'm assuming, yeah.
Yeah, his avatar was black, but it's cool because Jeremy identifies as black.
Yep. From DailyMail.com, Chinese whistleblower claims first COVID outbreak was intentional and happened in October 2019 at Military World Games in Wuhan, 2 months before the Chinese notified the world about the virus. Now, okay, so let's break this down. Just face value immediately, right quick off the bat. About this timeline, what is the timeline? How does that sense your female intuition, Delaney? What do you think about that timeline? Does that sound like something that could be reasonable, given that there was a lot of reports of people saying that they had some weird illnesses at the end of 2019?
Yeah, I remember because I used to work before I got laid off from my job. I used to work in a kitchen inside of an office building. I would serve the people in the office building. And I remember there were a lot of people right around this time, like before COVID was like an official thing in the United States, a lot of people getting really, really sick. And it seemed like a really, really bad flu. And yeah, and that it was right around like between like October and December. And I just assumed it was the flu because that's, typical flu season is in the winter when there's not a lot of sun, people aren't going outside as much because it's cold. I just assumed it was the flu. And then it was like right around January, February was when we heard about, there's this coronavirus thing that is wreaking havoc in China and it might come here. And I just thought to myself, I was like, it's already here. It happened. And most of the people I knew that got the sickness, they recovered and they were fine. And they were sick for a while, but they all seemed to recover and were okay. But yeah, this seems right to me.
There was a lot of reports like a year ago or even longer when this thing was still pretty fresh that people were talking about how it seemed like there was this thing or something like it was circulating in October and late 2019. Now I came down with some crazy respiratory thing, throat thing in January of 2020, shortly after this, before the whole COVID thing really broke out. I had I was sounding like Darth Vader for like a month straight. I had something that was pretty wild. And that could have been my first COVID instance. I think I've had it about 5 times now, but there was a lot of weird anomalies going around at that time. So, Dr. Defector Wei Jingsheng said a virus may have first spread at military tournament. Reports emerged in October 2019. Athletes at the event fell ill with mystery sickness. Oh. Mr. Jingsheng alleged that China deliberately spread the virus during the military games. He claims he took his concerns to senior figures in the U.S. government, but was ignored.
Whoa.
Well, Dari says in the YouTube chat, WHO stalled Fauci publicly and said we have nothing to worry about. So, yeah, and I mean, they have been preventing us from getting in there to discover where this thing came out. So we still have no idea because our team hasn't been able to get in. But on top of that, the team itself is led by Peter Daszak, which is the guy that oversees all this research to begin with. So conflict of interest there. It's like, geez, of course we're never going to understand what happened to this thing. Of course we have to rely on a whistleblower 2 years later to get some potentially accurate information because everybody involved is in on the jig, people. Fauci approved the funding. Daszak approved the research. Wuhan was just throwing it around at military games. They were trying to spread it in bats and caves, too, in 2018, which we're going to talk about. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So it really makes you wonder what's going on out there right now that they're working on, what the next thing is. The whistleblower has sensationally claimed China deliberately spread COVID at a military tournament 2 months before the rest of the world knew about the deadly virus. The international tournament for international, key word there, international tournament for the military athletes was held in Wuhan. Really? Seriously? I didn't know that until now. That's pretty shocking that it's in Wuhan, an international tournament for military athletes. Of course, if you're going to experiment on anybody, it's going to be the military people, right?
Of course. Yep. Always.
I mean, this is. I'm not saying this is true. I don't know if this is true. We're reading a story from Daily Mail, okay? But there's nothing in here that immediately jumps out to me as, whoa, that sounds too far-fetched. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to look for red flags. I'm trying to psychologically evaluate the information that I'm seeing here, and none of this sounds so unreasonable that I'm like, nah, there's no way. Like, if they said that if they made some really wild claims that they try to deliberately get the military people to eat pangolins at the cafeteria that they infected with it, then I'd be like, well, maybe not. But this seems believable, and it's
maybe
definitely...
they used that spray stuff that we talked about last week for the schools. That's how they spread it. They just they injected it in the water and just started it's like, do you want a mist because it's hot outside, and just infected people.
We know they have the capability to make a mist, as we're going to cover in the next story, which is almost as much of a bombshell, if not bigger than this one in and of itself. But I guess the moral of the story here with this is that we know the lab leak theory is... Think about the progression of the lab leak theory since this thing kind of came out. At first, you were called a conspiracy theorist for even considering that it was a lab leak. And now it's progressed all the way to, well, yeah, that's probably pretty likely exactly what happened. And now
more or less true.
More details are coming out about potentially how this thing was released. And, it's clear that the truth is being held from us one way or the other. I mean, they don't want our teams to get in there and investigate. We're not getting any there doesn't seem to be any effort or energy dedicated to finding out where or when this or how this thing started, or inducing any kind of ramifications or punishment for, the people who actually made it happen. So we can only conclude that they either don't want us to know, or they're not interested in knowing where this thing came from. Those are the only two possibilities that we have to go off of right now based off of this stuff. So we have to rely on whistleblowers. It's a really tough situation we're in.
Yeah, for real, it is. I mean, I'm glad that finally somebody's said something, and we have some small little droplet of something to kind of figure out where it might have come from. But at the same time, this is not enough it's not enough for me, because I'm like, I want to know, because for the last year and a half, I've been called a conspiracy theorist for thinking that this was an intentional thing, but I mean, it's kind of looking more and more likely that it was. So, yay for me. I'm not a conspiracy theorist on this, at least.
Well, too late because you've already had your YouTube banned and your Twitter account banned and all that. None of that's coming back. Remember, people, social media companies were taking action on people for saying this stuff, and that's never coming back. So now that we've progressed in time and discovered the truth, or at least truth, closer to the truth, there's not going to be any pushbacks or undos on those bans, those suspensions or anything like that. They got the people out that they wanted to get out. That's exactly all they were using it for. Let's see. Peter D. himself admitted he personally handled 1,500 bats with coronaviruses and was bit countless times. Says Blessed in the YouTube chat. Yep. We're going to be talking about old Peter in the next story here. Dari says, people are missing the big picture. It sounds too far-fetched to believe. But he also says it was a perfect plan to get Trump out of office. And that is the other variable that when you throw that into the mix, because if you look back in time now, Trump would not have gotten voted out if it wasn't for the coronavirus.
Yep.
I think we can all agree on that, okay? Because he was killing it everywhere. But it was his response to the coronavirus, or at least his perceived response to the coronavirus, which is what got him voted out. So that makes you wonder. Yeah, somebody get Alex Jones. Where's Alex Jones? Get his. Somebody.
Yeah,
we need
where
his
is
opinion.
he?
Let me call him up real quick. Hey, Alex, you want to come on the show? Yeah, I wish it was. I wish it was that easy.
I wish. I
Okay.
would love to talk to that guy. He sounds like a good time.
Courtney.
Let me just add another layer of conspiracy to this.
Yes.
So do you guys remember in 2019, there was a big to-do about vaping liquids that came from China, and they were making, people very sick. I'm just curious if perhaps these two things could have been connected. I don't know. Could be totally in left field. It's just something that thought about.
I like that. Okay, I see where you're going with that. So the vape thing was potentially a method of distribution. Interesting. Okay. I mean, it's entirely, to quote Joe Rogan, it's entirely possible. Yeah.
It's not out of the realm of possibilities. And I mean, China handles so much of our stuff that this thing could have easily it could have easily come from so many different things out of China that we rely on.
Yeah, I remember back then it was like you got to disinfect your packages if you get something from China. I remember getting something off of Amazon that came from China, and I didn't disinfect it, but I did think twice. I was waiting like 3 months for a shipment of battery cells for my off-grid tiny house, and when I opened it, I was like, basically what Courtney said. If they wanted to put something in this envelope that I'm about to open or whatever it is, they could definitely, make that happen. So let's go to Kizza.
China lied, people died. WHO lied, people died. CDC lied, people died. The European Union lied, people died. The Conservatives lied, the people died. Justin Trudeau lied, people died. What's the need I go on?
Yeah.
Yep. No, we got it. Courtney.
I must say one more thing. So
Okay.
back in 1918, did you know it was the military who were vaccinated right before the 1918 flu, the Spanish flu? So they vaccinated all of the military, sent them all back here. So this theory is not far off. If you think about it, if we're just replaying it, doing the playbook over and over, it's not too far off.
Hell yeah.
And that's one thing that I've learned doing the show and investigating and looking at all the stuff that's happening and looking for historical references is that they do reuse playbooks, people. It's just the same playbooks over and over and over again. This is nothing new. Nothing we're seeing or living through is anything new. It's all just reiterations of previous playbooks and previous plans. So I didn't know that, Cordy. I'm going to take a look at that actually after the stream, see if I can get some more information on that. But the funny thing is, as she was saying that, I had a realization that think about the word theory. I mean, they could demonize conspiracy theorists all the time, right? But think about the word theory, what that actually means. Theory just means that you're thinking about something, because if you're not capable of thinking, you can't come up with any theories. So really all they're trying to do explicitly is to just dissuade any kind of thinking on the subject. Don't think about where this thing started. Don't think about how it came into existence. Just accept, everything that you're told. I think that's interesting, and you don't really recognize that if you just go along and when someone says conspiracy theorists, the people don't actually interpret the words and the definitions of those words. All they receive is the emotion that's attached to those words, right? So they're not even communicating on an actual human level anymore, where that you say a word and you receive an idea. Somebody says a word and they receive feelings, they receive emotions. I think that's I just want to point out how interesting that is. Kizzo's got another comment here.
Speaking of which, did you guys hear that Pfizer had to recall back their anti-smoking drug because it was found to have a cancer-causing chemical within it?
No.
That's a mystery.
Yeah,
And I bet that is FDA approved too.
We'll have to get an emergency use authorization for that, maybe. Get it back in the system. Osis.
It's funny you just said they don't want our teams in there to investigate. We don't want our teams in there to investigate.
Yeah, no, you're right.
We funded it, like you said. Daszak, Fauci, EcoHealth Alliance. We paid for this stuff.
Yep.
Not just this, but like 65 other experiments too. Department of Defense was involved. All kinds of United States government apparatuses were involved. we're balls deep in this bat shit.
And as always, Osis gives me good segues right into from the New York Post. Wuhan scientists wanted to release coronaviruses into bats in 2018. So they proposed, these scientists working in China, who work closely with Americans, by the way, scientists at the Wuhan Institute of Virology were planning to genetically enhance airborne coronaviruses and release aerosols containing novel chimeric spike proteins among cave bats in China, according to a 2018 proposal submitted to DARPA. Oh, dude, this is so great. Man, so yeah, China was asking us for money. The Chinese researchers, who again is it's a combination of Chinese and American people, right? The Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is Peter Daszak's whole crew. They also plan. Then listen to this. This is the best part. They also plan to alter coronaviruses to infect humans more easily by introducing human-specific cleavage sites to bat coronaviruses.
Wow.
They were trying to do this stuff in 2018, and somehow it got through the cracks, and they were able to do something similar to this, at least in 2019, it appears. So one thing I want to point out with the human-specific cleavage sites. So cleavage sites is something that I have absolutely no idea what that is. But when I hear biologists and virologists talk about this, and Fauci, I think Fauci mentioned it in his emails, or at least his some of his associates mentioned it. They said because of the cleavage sites in this new virus, it looks like it may be, there's an indication that this was man-altered or man-made. And when they were looking at that, it was the cleavage sites specifically that they're referring to indicate that it was man-made. Now, rewind back to 2018, and you've got a proposal from the exact same institute where this thing came out of, asking for permission to add human-specific cleavage sites to bat coronaviruses. I don't know. It seems like it's pretty easy to kind of connect the dots on this one, or at least the coincidences are so stacked against their favor. It's hard to believe that there wasn't something going on there at this point.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, this is just kind of stuff that me and you have been talking about for over a year now, and it's kind of all coming to light, which is nice. But at the same time, I didn't want to be kind of right, but it's nice to be kind of right sometimes.
And as Osis rightly pointed out, the article continues to say the proposal was spearheaded by New York City-based EcoHealth Alliance, the nonprofit headed by British scientist Peter Daszak. that has previously funneled federal funds, our money, into the Wuhan lab for bat coronavirus research. But the $14 million grant ended up being rejected by DARPA over fears it could result in gain-of-function research. This is hilarious. It's clear, quote, it's clear that the proposal project led by Peter Daszak could have put local communities at risk. Well, not just local communities, turns out. So, yeah, this is, the dots are all there. You know, you guys can connect them if you want. I'm not going to say one thing or the other. Maybe I would on Odyssey, but not on YouTube.
My one question is, like, why the bats? Is there a specific reason why they wanted to put it in the bats? Is it like, are bats?
That's where it came
like...
from originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the coronaviruses came from bats originally and then jumped to humans.
Okay. That's just, yeah. I'm like, what's this fixation on the bats? I know, yeah, I understand that, but it's like, so if they put the stuff in the bats, are the bats going to like poop on the people and transmit it that way? I just, I don't know. It's just, it's weird to me.
Yeah, no, that's, I don't understand why they would want to do that unless they were actually trying to see it transition from bats to humans more readily. You know what I'm saying? So it sounds like they were trying to do gain-of-function research without doing gain-of-function research on paper, which goes in line with exactly what Fauci was lying about in the congressional hearings, where he said it's not gain-of-function because it doesn't meet this textbook definition of gain-of-function, but it does add function. So, I mean, we can't get into all that right here, you know what I'm saying? We're going to get another strike.
Yeah.
We're going to get another strike. By the way, folks, follow the Telegram and follow us on Odyssey because there's a good chance we're not going to be here next week for the stream, which is fine because we're going to be transitioning over to Odyssey anyway. So follow the Telegram link in the description if you want to get updates on the stream stuff. And hopefully we'll see you over on Odyssey next week if we get banned here, or maybe we'll be on YouTube.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the overlords say about this stream.
That one was funny because we didn't get a strike immediately. It was like 4 days after. I got it on a Sunday. We streamed on a Wednesday, and I got the strike on. And so somebody's going through and watching the videos and looking for strikes. Anyway, let's see. COVID. Yeah, no. How has all this been covered up for so long? Yeah, that's a great question, Regent. I think that's the question that we all have on our minds, right? And
well, I mean, it takes a long time to really investigate these things, I think. And also, we've said this in the past, people can't handle the truth to some degree. And if they actually came out and said, like, yeah, it came from China. Yeah, we covered it up for over a year. Yeah, we put businesses in the ground over this thing. People would be in uproar over it. So I think that the general public really can't handle the truth at this time, especially with how the society is just crumbling as we speak over just the preventative measures to try to prevent this thing from spreading. Imagine if people actually found out the real truth and where this thing came from. We just crumble even more.
It's so intertwined in the political system here too. They've politicized it so much that it's now the fate of the COVID narrative is tied to the fate of basically the Democratic Party, because they have been full on all about it. You know, they've dominated it. They've taken that over as their primary narrative for the last 2 years. Everything they're doing is based off of that. So they would go down with the ship if this narrative went down. So they have to protect it at all costs. They're now ego invested in the idea of COVID not being intentionally released or a lab leak or the result of Fauci making the wrong decision. And ego invested meaning if that thing dies, they die with it. So let's see. If it's true, it's an act of war, right? Yeah, well, that's what I say about, repercussions. Because if you were interested in finding out where this thing is, you could hold people responsible, because unless you know for sure that it wasn't somebody's fault, then who do you know? You can't blame anybody. You can't make sure it's not going to happen again, right? So, yeah, in a lot of respects, it could definitely be seen as an act of war.
Well, and think about it too. If they actually said, yeah, China gave it to us, China spread it, all of the hate and animosity that Americans have been having, and Canadians as well, have been having towards each other, the masked and the unmasked, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, all of that hate and animosity, I don't know if people would be able to let it go. because I think at the end of the day, people want to blame other people instead of blaming the people who are actually to blame for this. And it's, yeah, people just don't want to get rid of that hate and that anger. They just want to swill in it and
It feels way too
swim
good.
in it. And yeah, it feels way too good to be hateful towards the unvaccinated, because it's an easier target than going, oh, I hate China for doing this to us. I mean, yeah, people just don't want to let it go at this point.
Remember, it's insinuating that China had anything to do with this was racist. Okay, so they stated implicitly immediately off the bat that they don't want to know where this came from, because if it was any possibility that China was it, that's racist. They don't want to know. All right. Anyway, we got a bunch of stereos stacked up, but I'm going to take this time before we go through those to shill for the stream. If you guys want to listen to the podcast version, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google under the name The Alt-Centrist. So, listen to us while you're in the gym getting jacked and, getting your vitamin D. Because, actually, real quick, before we get to the stereos, I want to get this last study about vitamin D, actually. So follow us there. Follow the Telegram in the description for updates in case we get banned. You guys, we actually have a pretty lively chat group in the Telegram talking about stories and whatnot. So if you like the community, obviously you can see the YouTube chat is on fire. People are just going nonstop in here. That doesn't stop over in the Telegram, okay? So I recommend joining that. You can talk with us all the time about interesting stories. Shilling over. Let's go to this final story. We love science. I want to share this brand new study with you guys on vitamin D. And this is another big question about why nobody's telling you to do this. Okay, it's not necessarily brand new, but I just found it anyway. Association between vitamin D deficiency and COVID-19 incidence, complications, and mortality in 46 countries. Let me just jump to the conclusion here. Basically, you know what it's going to say, right? We know what it's going to say. Vitamin D helps you with COVID, okay? Now, I wanted to point this out because now I have a study to back that up. And this is, again, something we've known for like a year and a half, but one of those things that nobody wants to talk about. So, the results of the present study suggest the vitamin D deficiency as associated with an increased risk of COVID-19 infection and mortality rate across a wide range of countries. Since the accumulating body of evidence strongly suggests the risks of vitamin D deficiency and the benefits of vitamin D supplementation, there is an urgent need for evidence from the well-designed clinical trials evaluating vitamin D supplementation for the prevention and treatment of COVID-19 in different settings. So they're saying, yeah, this is so good that we need to study how vitamin D supplementation can actually prevent and treat COVID-19. Imagine treating this disease with vitamin D. Not a pharmaceutical, not an injection, not some monoclonal antibodies, just a vitamin. It's crazy. Now they say that they account for the fact that countries with not as much sunlight, like the northern European countries, they get their vitamin D from nutritional sources like fish, cod that they eat up there, and things like that, which would explain why places like Sweden, who, as far as I know, had never had any kind of mandates, is basically open up now, completely open. Was it Denmark? It's also now open completely with no mandates, nothing except for international travel. You got to look at those countries and wonder why. What are the variables involved that let them be completely open with no lockdowns, no mandates? And this could be one of those things where we've strayed so far from having any kind of societal, socialized version of healthy nutrition. Right? We're over here telling people fat people are healthy in the middle of a pandemic, people. This is what America's doing. Over there, they're eating healthy. They're not obese. They're eating fish. They're having the vitamin D. They're getting all the good stuff. And guess what? They're wide open. Nobody cares. So,
and I don't think that the companies in Sweden and Denmark and all these northern European countries are incentivizing people to get the jab with not Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kremes and beer.
Yeah, free beer and donuts.
Yeah, and all these unhealthy things that they're not incentivizing people like we are here with that. We're incentivizing people to continue their unhealthy eating habits. And all you got to do is get the jab and you'll get a free beer. Get the jab and you get a free donut for a year if you get the jab. Like, it's kind of counterintuitive what we're doing.
Really
here.
stupid stuff, yeah.
I think it's on purpose a little bit, but then again, that's a conspiracy theory as well.
I mean, look at all the control and the profit that they get off of it. You know, the control and the profit wouldn't be there if these people weren't fat and unhealthy. So I think there is an incentive, a clear incentive, to have an unhealthy, stupid population. And before we jump to the stereos, I just want to hit up these last couple sentences here. Low mortality rates observed in Nordic countries are exceptions that could be explained by strong supplementation and food fortification with vitamin D carried out in these countries. Epidemiological studies in Europe and the United States have also suggested an inverse relationship between vitamin D levels and COVID-19 risk. Vitamin D supplementation has consistently been considered useful in the treatment of COVID-19 infection, and yet nobody has ever told you on TV to take vitamin D. And you got to ask why.
And I think the few times that I've been on Bill, all-1 Bill, he's one of our buddies. That's one thing that he's been really a strong proponent of on his channel is a lot of people in this country who have health issues. It's not because of X, Y, or Z. It's because most of them have vitamin deficiency. They're not getting enough vitamins, or they're getting the wrong kind of vitamins or the wrong dosage of vitamins in their diet and through supplementation as well. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Or nutrition, yeah. They're just eating terrible processed foods and they're not taking the proper vitamins. And that has a lot to do with why people are so unhealthy.
Well, the point is that you shouldn't have to take any vitamins because you should have a good nutritional intake where you're getting food natural. It's vitamin D, right? But nobody is now, so that's yeah. And again, you know, we don't even have to go so far as to ask why aren't they saying vitamin D? Dari points out in the chat exactly what I'm talking about, and it's always, if you want to understand reality, all you got to do is look at the incentives. Okay, who's making a bunch of money, and that will lead you to the truth in these particular cases. So let's go to these stereos, and we'll wrap up the show.
Wrap it up.
Gizzo.
Speaking of which, did you all remember swine flu back in 2010? I was reminded of this yesterday, and my God, the response was absolutely hilarious. Looking back in my country, the United Kingdom, they ordered over 90,000 odd quote-unquote vaccines, swine flu, but there was deaths of around 330 people. And the government was trying to backtrack on those contracts, and the so-called European Union apparently was investigating Big Pharma on whether they were trying to create this hoax, an outbreak, in order to them to make lots and lots of money. History repeating itself?
Follow the incentives.
Or am I just gone too far down the rabbit hole? You decide.
All right, Holly's in the house. What's up, Holly?
The craziest part of all of this is every single country in the world had connections to this Wuhan lab. I mean, there's a lab here in Canada that had government funding that would ship potentially deadly viruses back and forth from Winnipeg to China. So it's even here in Canada, and there was a big investigation that went into the funding that the federal government was putting into this frickin' Winnipeg lab. So it's not just America, it's every single country in the world that was involved with this. So it really makes you stop to think, I don't even know, was this intentional? Have we been put in this place? Who knows?
Well, that's the problem. When they don't exhibit an actual intentional, energetic effort to discover the truth, which we can see they're not, it makes a reasonable person assume that there's something fishy going on. So what do they expect? You know what I'm saying? And when, especially, you stack on top of that, Fauci lied about masks. He flip-flopped 10 times between now and 2020. And he hasn't gotten reprimanded. He hasn't gotten fired. And we're supposed to just keep believing this guy. Any other person in any other position on the planet would have gotten fired already, right? But he didn't. So we're just forced to listen to this guy flip-flop and lie all the time. And then they're surprised that we think there's something strange going on.
It's almost getting to the point where it's no longer connect the dots. It's just, look, there's the dot.
Yeah, pretty much. That's right. Purple Kush.
Funny, I got real sick in December of 2019.
Yeah.
I had a cough the second week, and the first week had a runny nose. They didn't overlap, and it was the sickest I've been in a long time.
That's
And the first
exactly
time
what
I've
I
been sick
had.
in a long time. My nephew got me sick. Then I went to Sacramento and got my son sick. And then
Oh,
he
you
got
probably got
my
me
baby
sick.
mama sick after I left. And I know what a cleavage site is. And oh, what a sight it is.
Dude,
I like this guy.
okay. That's crazy because I was in Sacramento when I got sick, and I got the exact same thing that he said. It was first it was nose for a week, and then it moved to like throat for a week, and then it moved to just head for a week. Like it just kept moving. It was a really weird thing. I never seen anything like that before. So, I mean, just one guy listening to our stream has another anecdote of a weird illness happening at the end of 2019. What are the odds? Osis.
For every quote unquote crazy conspiracy we've been dealing with lately, there's a 3-step cycle. It goes, you're crazy, this couldn't have happened, our government wouldn't be involved, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's step 1. Step 2 being, well, maybe it happened, but it's still just a theory. It wouldn't be our government, just don't worry about it. Just let the story die. 2, that's step 2. Step 3 being, yeah, it happened. Yeah, we did it. And it was for your own good, bigot.
Yeah.
So just deal with it.
Yep.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's the cycle. And it's happened probably about 5 or 6 times since Trump's presidency.
Yes, sir. Good way to put it. Well said. Okay, the jogger. He's got on the phone.
Maybe they thought this would be the way to create an entire army of Batman and Batwomen in order to save the world. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I was thinking that
I
too.
would say that's perhaps the reason.
They're trying to create a
because
Batman.
These days, reality and fiction are so intertwined. It's hard to tell the difference.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to create a human bat hybrid, right? The term chimeric in the language that they're using for the spike proteins, that is a reference to meaning different species combined into one. So it's not far fetched to say they're trying to make like a Batman or something. Hopefully my chuckle at the end insinuates that I'm not serious about that. Okay, so Holly.
Yeah. Just a quick note about the bats, and this I remember from Biology 30 when I was in high school. But bats are natural reservoirs because their immune systems, their metabolisms are so high that their bodies replenish themselves faster than viruses can kill them off. So they are considered natural zoological reservoirs for viruses, and they shed them all the time. So when people come into contact with them, the people get sick and then reinfect the bats again, and then that continues the cycle in the virus lifespan, and that's how evolution happens with zoological viruses.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Thank you, Holly, because I'm just confused why they inject stuff into bats. But I mean, it could be any ball game that people want it to be.
I think there's something to the respiratory systems as well. I think they're really similar to humans, or something in them is really similar to humans too. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I just remember heard something about that. All right, Osis is the last one.
No, I don't agree. I don't think it has to do with people can't handle the truth. If Fauci, the main government official in charge of the coronavirus response, is found to be responsible or partially responsible for the coronavirus itself, then you have totally destroyed any credibility that you have as a governing body.
Yeah.
That's why they have to prop Fauci up. This has to remain covered up. No, they can't have any intellectual curiosity on this. This has to be like a well-known secret, I guess. Kind of like your sister getting pregnant and your mom raising the child as one of her kids. That kind of deal.
Yeah, they have to keep it covered up.
I mean, yes, they have to keep it covered up, but I also think that people who have revered Fauci over this last year and a half as like the coronavirus master, if they found out that he lied and people died, they can't handle that truth. They don't want to know that their messiah is responsible for all of this. They can't handle that. So I think it's a little bit of both, but I do agree with you that it is like they just want to keep it covered because it's too much for it's too much. It's too much for a lot of people to handle.
But-
I know people that revere him as like he's this great person. He did so much for our society and has helped so much with the coronavirus, even though he's pretty much gotten everything wrong.
And well, the other thing is, here's an objective take on the Fauci guy that I think anyone reasonable on any side could agree on. Now, he should be fired for one simple reason, in that his response to this thing is what arguably led to all of the conspiracy theories and the distrust and the mistrust of the government and its response to this, right? Because he was the one that admittedly lied about the masks. He's the one that flip-flops all the time. It's his job to convince people as the public health master to comply with the government's public health regulations. And he's doing a very bad job of it objectively, because look at what happened as a result of him flip-flopping and lying and all that stuff. That alone should be fireable offense. We don't even have to get into any kind of the backdoor, stuff about paying for the Wuhan research or anything like that. It's just an objective job level our evaluation of what he's doing, and how, looking at the state of how things are now based on this guy running things for 2 years, he's not done a very good job. And that, I think, is enough to get him fired. So
Yeah, I agree. I wanted him gone from the very beginning. I looked at this guy on TV and was like, why is everybody listening to him? Like, I get that he is a doctor and he studies virology, but even doctors and scientists get stuff wrong a lot. And why is nobody recognizing that the advice that he's giving is not really helping anything?
all right, folks, if you guys like the content, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. You know where to find us every Wednesday, 7 p.m. PST, right here on youtube.com/weekly narrative. Maybe not next week. Maybe we might be on Odyssey next week. Good chance. But if we're not here, you know where to find us on Odyssey. So go looking there if we aren't here on next Wednesday, 7 p.m. PST. And look for the podcast on podcast platforms. It's called the Alt-Centrist. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the content. We'll be here next week. Delaney, any last words?
Thanks to everybody that commented, the new people. We love you. Thank you. Please join us next week. Look us up on YouTube. We'll be here. And I hope everybody has a great night.
Cheers, folks. Remember, get your vitamin D, okay? Eat your cod,
Yep.
get some sunlight, go outside, and you'll be good to go. Easy.
Yep.
Coronavirus over. Just like that. Done. All right, guys. We'll see you
All right.
next week.
All right. Have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.